Hi there everybody, TIETS here. Welcome to another TIETS Informational. Today we are going to be doing an early review for a game on Kickstarter by our friend Christian Strain, who brought us Asking for Troubles last year. Great gateway game. This year we have Flippin Monsters, which is a card game for 2 to 4 players, which is basically a memory game, set collection game, a bunch of monsters that like socks and candies and such that just land on the planet. We don't know why, but you know, they turn out to be pretty friendly. So we're gonna try to collect them up and score a bunch of points and outwit our opponents and collect Flippin Monsters. So let's show you how the game plays real quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Thanks. Okay, so the basic setup of Flippin Monsters, you're gonna have an A, B, C, and a D deck. These are the starting decks, so depending on how many players. So in this case, let's just say it's a 2-player game. You're going to give one player stack A, another player stack B. C and D are going to go away, and they're going to go into the box. The starting cards are just basically a bunch of little monsters that don't cost anything. As you can see, there's no cost on top, but some of them are going to have these little candies. Some are going to have socks, which is what the monsters are after. And you're going to shuffle these babies up. Just give them a good shuffle. And then you are going to lie 10 of them down straight in front of you. Alright, so once you have all these randomized, then you're going to take the rest of the deck and you're going to shuffle these together, and you're going to create basically 5 piles across the middle of 13 cards that are face up. Just give you an idea what the cards look like. So here's the cost of the card. This is going to be 3 candies to get this monster to collect this guy. And he provides you with a sock. You know, here's Bloop, 2 candies. He provides you with a candy, 2 socks, the baby, 2 candies. Then you've got the Kraken, who gives you a whole bunch of stuff, but he costs a bunch to get. And then you have their special ability cards, which we'll talk about in just a few seconds here. Okay, everybody, here is your basic setup for a 2-player game of Flippin Monsters. Now, in a 3 or 4-player game, you're going to have 1 or 2 more sets of 10 cards, and your area is going to grow, so you're going to need a little bit of space for this game. Also, you want to make sure that all your cards are always orientated the same way. So the Flippin Monster should be facing you. You can't turn it upside down. You can't angle your cards. You always have to have them, when you place them, on the side or top of another card. You can't have them at a diagonal, so it have to be here or here. And that's important because this is a memory game, so you can't, go, oh, okay, I'm going to just do that a little bit so I know what that guy is. That is against the rules. Because basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect monsters and collect as many as you can, and the more your collections are worth at the end of the game, the more points you get. Whoever gets the most points wins. Okay, so on your turn, it consists of a few steps. The first one is you're always going to flip 5 cards of your cards in your play area. So for example, we just flip here, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to get a little strategic on how we flip them. So we can say, oh, okay, well, now I know that these guys, I'm a little trouble here, my little Sparta aren't worth much, but I got 3 candies going for me. So you flip those over, and everyone's going to be looking at you because they're going to try to figure out where your cards are as well. And then you have to make a choice, like, hey, what can I buy? Well, in this case, I could buy Goose, which doesn't provide me anything, but it does give me an additional monster to collect. Or I could get Blazer, which cost me 3 candies, which would use up all my candies. But hey, check this out. I would get 2 candies. So on a subsequent turn, if I had this card and I flipped it, I would get 2 candies. So now, like in this scenario, if it was my next turn, I would have 5 candies to use. So that's the advantage of getting those. So basically, as the game goes and you collect cards, you're trying to collect cards that obviously give you candies and socks so you can, get more monsters to collect. Or you're going to have the very important action cards. So let me just go over those real quick. So this action right here, you see this with a little flip action. This means that you can flip an additional card, which is going to be imperative when you're trying to collect larger sets. So for example, if Brock was in your play area, it would allow you to flip another card. So that's the advantage of the flip action. Then you have this action, which you can see here. You can flip an opponent's card. So what would happen is if you had this flipped in your play area and you use this action, you would flip one of your opponent's cards over. Now this is great if you know that you can waste one of their cards essentially. So it's sort of a semi-take that thing, but you got to remember where their non-lucrative cards are. And as you get into a 3-4 player game, you can see where you really have to start thinking about paying attention to everybody's board. The one thing that you can't, in a 3 or 4 player game, you can't just pick on one player. You have to do it to everybody or nobody. So if you use this action, you have to flip one of each opponent's cards. The next action is this little switcheroo here. So this card would allow you, if this was in your play area and you had it flipped, is to swap 2 people's cards. So you would find your opponents and you would take a card here and you would swap it with another one, hoping to delusionally confuse them so they can know they can't flip the proper monsters that they need. And then we have the exciting little Mobots. And what Mobots are, they don't count as a monster, so they can't work on one of your collections. But they allow you to flip 2 of your cards and turn one over. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, where are my cards? This lets you look at them and flip them so you can kind of find out where your cards are more easily. And there's other cards. This one gives you a sock. Blue here gives you candy. You get 2 socks with a Yetta, or a Yetto, like a Yetto. And then baby, 2 candies, and the Kraken, you can see where you get, they start to cost more, but look at this guy, 3 candies and a sock, flip, some of them give you 2 flip actions, and so forth and so on. Okay, so let's say the game's moving along. Now, this is really symmetrical, it probably is not going to look like this, but let's say the game's moving along and it's my turn. I go, okay, I'm going to flip this one here, I got Brock, flip Lily, I'm going to flip the Kraken, I got a Yetto, and then I'm going to flip, let's see, this guy right here, Blazor, okay? So now what I got a lot of actions I can do. I can collect, so I could use these 2 little candies, and I could say, okay, I'm going to collect Bloop. I could do that now, or I could wait and I could do my actions first. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip an additional card. So I'm going to use Brock, I'm going to flip this card. I'm going to use Lily, I'm going to flip this card, I'm going to use the Kraken, look at this guy, it lets me flip 2 cards. I'm going to flip 2 cards, now I've got all these guys. And then I go, okay, and I have this Yetto action, I'm going to mess my opponent up, I'm going to swap this card with this one. Done with that. And now I'm going to go, okay, it's the end of my turn, I could still use these 2 candies, so I'm going to collect, let's see, I'm going to collect, ooh, I don't have this guy. I'm going to collect Goose. The thing is when you collect, the card goes face down, it doesn't go face up, so I can't collect him this turn. Let's say I put him here. Yeah, I'm going to put him right over here. Okay, and now what I do is it's the end of my turn, I'm going to go, okay, well, the game is getting close, because when the game ends is when 2 of these piles go away, or in a short game, you would have 1 pile go away. I recommend playing with 2. So once 2 of these piles go away, everyone gets 1 more turn, and then the person who created that gets 1 more turn and the game's over. But what you're going to do is collect sets. So I have how many different monsters here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but 2 of them are the same, so this would be a set of 7. So I have to make a critical decision here. Should I collect 7 cards? Should I flip them over? Should I push my luck and try to get a bigger set before the game ends? In this case, with this many cards, I would probably flip them over and continue on. But let's say I was collecting a collection. So I would go 1, 2. This is kind of risky because I'm getting rid of some really good cards, which I probably wouldn't want to do. But see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take this guy because he doesn't do anything for me. 4, and then I'm going to take this Blazor because I'm going to take this one because he flips a card. I want to keep that. And then I would take Bloop. These would get turned back over. I would take this collection and I would turn it face down. I can never look at it again till the end of the game. I would turn it face down, but in a sense, this is worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards, which at the end of the game, which would be worth, if you can see this, 13 points. So you can see as you go higher, they get more valuable. I mean, if you collect a set of 12, you're getting 48. So it just depends if you can get them all or if you can't get them all. So it's kind of, you're pressing your luck, you're trying to see what your opponent's doing, and so forth and so on. So that was a complete turn. The other thing you do on your turn is, let's say it's getting the game and I go, oh my gosh, I need my flip cards. I shouldn't have got rid of those cards. You can spend your entire turn to take one of your collections and return it to your board face down. And that would be your whole turn. But sometimes if you get yourself into a major fix, That's going to be the only way to save yourself, especially if you see your opponent collecting a lot of cards. Once 2 of these piles are gone, like I said, the game ends after each person gets 1 more turn, and then you count up your points. Whoever has the most points wins. Whoever has, if it's a tie, whoever has the largest 1 collection wins. And that's Flippin' Monsters. Okay, everybody, so that is just a quick overview of Flippin' Monsters. This game at first glance is kind of okay. It's a memory, it's a set collection game, it's a card game. I've seen it before. But in reality, Flippin' Monsters is more than that. There's a lot going on here. It's really easy to teach, so you can teach people out pretty fast. And once they get the concept of kind of what the actions do and how you're trying to collect sets, and you can collect 1 per turn at any time if you want. So there's a little bit of a pressure luck element, like, okay, let's see, I could collect 7 now, or I could try to get another monster. I could get, this monster out here. I could bring him over. Okay, now I've got about 16 cards. I'm trying to remember where things are, and I got 17, I got 18. I got to get those flip actions because I got to be able to flip more cards if I want to collect more. And then when you collect your cards, you got to make the decision, hey, what do I collect here? Like, should I collect, these flip cards now, or should I hang on to them? Do I have enough monsters where I could sacrifice some of my candies or some of my sock cards? And then you got to remember, okay, hey, where are those starter cards that are useless to me? Because I want to collect those and get those out of the way so I don't have to think about them. And not to mention, those are the cards that my opponents keep flipping over. So they're all kind of all these little unique things to think about. And then there's sort of that kind of, Lost Cities, Arboretum type thing where, the game's going to end when 2 of those stacks get empty. So you're kind of start panicking like someone's trying to end the game faster, so they're depleting a pile because they already collected a big set, and that's a big chunk of points. And maybe your strategy was, hey, I'm going to collect some smaller sets and just try to collect fast and make my area more manageable so I don't have to focus so much on remembering everything. Okay, so you can play this game with 2, 3, or 4 players. So the 2-player game is really kind of a back and forth. You can get a little bit more of that, take that, but it's also easier to remember where the cards are, so there isn't as much depth. It's fun. Then you get into the 3-player game and the 4-player game. 4-player game is going to take over the whole table. You're really going to be trying to remember where everybody's stuff is. You're going to get a lot more nervous waiting for your turn because the card you need may go away. But then, of course, when it goes away, another card might come up. Another monster might come up that you really need. I think the best way to play this game is with 3 players, but I think it is good with 2, it's good with 3, and it's good with 4. I think 3 is the best just because it doesn't, hurt your head so much. You can kind of stay with things a little bit more. You get to take your turns faster, and you don't need so much space. 2-player, it's kind of back and forth. It's fun. But I think really this is best with 3 players. As far as the theme and the artwork goes, again, this is a prototype, but the theme, it's comical, it's funny. It's kind of, you saw some of the artwork, it's kind of cartoony, sort of little monsters. Actually, the names are fun to play around with. Bloop and Brock and Yetto and Baby kind of helps jog your memory on these different monsters. But it seems kind of comical and but for some reason, it's fun to say the names. I mean, these are monsters. They like socks. They like candies. They're not very harmful. They're harmless, and you're trying to collect them. I mean, there's humor in the game, so it's a fun sort of theme. It's kind of a light to medium weight game that's easy to teach. So if you like kind of memory, set collection, good fillers that add a little bit more strategic depth than your normal card game, then I would say Flippin' Monsters is going to be real fun for you. One thing that I would hope that they add or might get added is when you use the actions, you're not supposed to move the cards. So I mean, you can do that, but then when you flip them, you got to put them straight again. You can do that. We just use little cool little tokens and put them on there. So every time you use that card during your turn, that action, you just put a little token on it. Then when you're done, you take the tokens off, flip it over. So that was a cool little add there. But yeah, check it out. Flippin' Monsters, fun little card game. Take it easy. A early review for a Kickstarter game by our friend Christian Slane. They like socks and candy. The theme is funny again. So I'm about to sneeze. I should probably leave that on. He's flipping much.